Azimio leader Raila Odinga has rubbished claims by the Kenya Kwanza administration linking retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and himself to the ballooning public debt, which, according to Kenya Kwanza leader, was to blame for the expensive loans taken by the previous administration. In an interview with Citizen TV's Chemutai Goin, Odinga told the fifth administration to put its house in order, even as he urged Kenyans to remain patient until they make public their next course of action.
Thank you very much. And on that note of just looking at the year that has been, for you, first as a leader that is respected nationally, what would you sum up 2023 as? We know there's the issue of the cost of living, the economic situation, the changes that the new administration has instituted. But for you, and looking at how the nation has been running, how would you rate it and how would you portray it?
We actually ourselves as the opposition feel very let down in these periods. Because as you know, we started this year the hope that we'll be able to achieve certain reforms and changes. And we started making those demands, but those demands were never met. There was a lot of resistance and arrogance in responding to the demand that we're making. You know, this is the year following the elections, which were very controversial. And we wanted to put this experience of the last year's elections behind us. And the only proper way to do it was to look at what exactly happened last year. And that's why we asked that we should have an audit of the servers or the electoral process last year. The reason we're demanding this is that we don't want to get into another electoral period without resolving what had happened last year. And we don't want to see a repeat what happened last year, because it was actually a shame on Kenyan democracy that we go for an election and you have an electoral commission that is divided, split right in the middle. They were not able to agree on the results. Although we said we respected the ruling of the Supreme Court, we were expecting that we would be able to do a proper audit so that we put this matter behind us. But our colleagues in government refused to cooperate. And these and several other factors, including the cost of living, is what actually compelled us to ask Kenyans to exercise their democratic rights of protest. Peaceful demonstrations is actually one of the organs or weapons that's available to our people. And we ask people to come out and protest. This was met, unfortunately, with violence, and we lost quite a number of lives of innocent Kenyans. About 75 people so far, by our own account, died. To say nothing about those who were injured, some who are still nursing wounds, gunshot wounds up to now. So we, upon a request by the international community, agreed to a mediation and set up this bipartisan team to resolve this matter. As you know, it is still a work in progress. Now there is a report which is before Parliament. And we hope that this can be finalized so that implementation proceeds. One issue which is still outstanding, where there was no agreement during those negotiations, is the cost of living.
So cost of living still remains what would be termed an irreducible minimum for Azimio regarding the progress of the talks.
Correct. It is very critical. As you know, that Kenyans are suffering seriously right now. And we have asked the government to take remedial measures to alleviate the suffering of the people of Kenya. There are some quick wins which the government can actually do, like reducing the level of taxation. That alone will have the effect of reducing the cost of living to some manageable levels. So it is still work in progress.
I know you have spoken previously about this, but on that bit of the state of the economy and what is really driving this administration to institute additional taxation measures, they say is the high level of debt. And one of the things the president and his allies have repeatedly said is this happened during the handshake period. What would you say about that?
There is a minister of Hitler who's called Heinrich Goebbels, the one who coined the theory of a great lie. That a lie repeated several times becomes the truth. First, there was nothing like handshake government. Every Kenyan knows that. We only agreed to shake hands with Uhuru Kenyatta on the basis of a memorandum of understanding that we signed after the disputes. And that MOU is available. I was never in government, neither did I appoint a minister or a permanent secretary or anybody in government. So there was nothing like a handshake government. The people who are talking about handshake government were the ones who are in government. They were earning salaries, big packs of salaries in government. And then they're saying the government was broke. What were they doing in that government? See, the hypocrisy. This country cannot continue to be ruled with hypocrisy and lies. You spread lies every day, hoping that people will believe that is the truth. Kenyans know that we were not in government, either, as ODM or even as Azimio. We were all the time in the opposition. But those who were in government were criticizing it because they were campaigning to succeed it. But they are responsible for everything that happened to that government. I see now, more than a year later, once they were in government, they're still blaming the previous government in which they served, that we took over empty coffers. If you took over empty coffers, you have been in government for 1 year. Why have we not created wealth in that period of time? We, with Mr. Kibaki, when we came to the government in 2003, we found an almost bankrupt treasury. We did not blame Mr. Moi. We just decided to move on, and we initiated measures to improve the economy. Because when these people are talking about debts, you need money to pay those debts. But tax is not the only way. Increasing tax is not the only way to raise revenue. You see, you can actually raise revenue without increasing taxes. And this is what we did. Because what we discovered was first that the tax base was narrow. So we widened the tax base to cover more people who are not within the brackets, okay? Without necessarily increasing the level of taxation. And secondly, we plugged the loopholes where the system was leaking through corruption. And doing those measures, the revenue went up. They had been collecting 200 billion. We went to 300 billion within 6 months. And the following year, we had gone to over 500 billion. In the end, we actually reached 1 trillion. So it is possible to raise revenue without punishing Kenyans the way they are doing right now.
And could you say one of those could also be trying to ensure the business environment is favorable, because there are concerns that have been raised that some local companies or even international companies that are operating are opting to move to our neighboring countries?
Certainly, yes. We have created a very unfriendly environment for business in the country. First, those who are already in the country are suffering because of high taxation. Like, for example, recently introduced what we call turnover tax, 3% turnover tax. I don't know where else this is done, because you never make tax turnover, because most of it will be just expenses. Taxes are based on profits. That's why you have to say gross turnover and net turnover, and that's what you tax. If you're going to be taxing turnover, what is the investor going to have? Because you're not just in business to pay taxes. You're in business to make money, make profit so that you can be able to pay dividends to your shareholders. But if the government wants to take everything from you, then where's the incentive? Why do you have to do business? You just don't do business in order to pay taxes to the government. And people will be looking at other destinations, the tax-friendly destinations. And if you can see, for example, Uganda is not doing what we're doing here. Tanzania, how are you going to create jobs? You're saying you're traveling around the world to attract investors. No investor will come when those who are already here are not feeling comfortable. Because before any foreign investor comes to bring their capital here, they ask those who are already here, how is the environment? And if the answer is negative, they will not come here. So you can make so many trips to the US. You can go to Silicon Valley to talk to those people there. They will ask General Motors. They will ask Coca-Cola. They will ask the American companies which are here first, how is the environment before they come. So it's a waste of time, a waste of public funds, globe-trotting, hoping that you bring investments here.
There are those that have hit out at the opposition and saying the opposition has been quiet. But then there's also a section of your leaders allied to your coalition who have said, Baba, keep quiet, Kenyans made their bed, let them lie in it. Has the opposition been muzzled, or is it that the government of the day is bullish in a way that it will not make any difference even if complaints are made regarding the running of government and even the policies that are being made?
First, I don't think it is correct to say that the opposition is quiet. We've been talking. We've been talking on most of these issues that are happening here. There is nothing that goes wrong here and we keep quiet. You see? We've talked about these scandals which have been coming up here. We talked about oil scandal. We talked about this sale of these state corporations. We talked about corruption in infrastructure, everything. You're not quiet. I don't know what else is expected of us to do. We cannot get into government to run the government. We can only point out what is going wrong with regard to the cost of living. We've been talking about the cost of living on a daily basis, okay? So then what the people are saying there, they're asking me to ask people to come out on the streets. And I've been saying that those who are saying that demonstrations were destroying their businesses, and they're losing businesses, and they're now asking me to ask people to come out. Other people are saying, no, don't ask them to come out. Baba, keep quiet. And I've also said, well, we talk when it's necessary, and times are going to come. You are correct. But right now, we are following a different path.
The National Dialogue Committee, as you had mentioned, submitted, finalized its report. There are some differences, of course, that emerged on some of the issues that were being discussed. But there's also the perception that the final report has sort of split section of Azimio, that Kioni speaks in one way, Martha Karua is speaking in a different way, Kalonzo Musyoka is also having a different opinion. We've also seen Eugene Wamalwa. There are some issues, like you mentioned, that were not fully agreed upon. Going forward, and even in the hope that the recommendations of that committee will be utilized to sort out some of the issues that affect the country, what is your feeling about the thought that the report may destabilize the opposition?
I want to disabuse the notion that Azimio is split over the report. Azimio is not split. In Azimio, of course, we allow freedom of expression. What has been said by leaders with Azimio is actually in the report itself. And most people have not read the report. It is a bulky report. I have a copy, and Ruto has a copy. And look at the origins of this enterprise. We, as Azimio, had 4 issues which we presented to the team to deal with. Number 1 was the cost of living, high cost of living, that should be reduced. Number 2 was audit of the results of last year's presidential elections. Number 3 was the issue of establishment of IEBC, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. That it must be inclusive and transparent. Number 4 was respect for multipartyism.
So cost of living still remains what would be termed an irreducible minimum for Azimio regarding the progress of the talks.
Correct. Where there is no agreement is on the issue of the cost of living. And our team there insisted that it must be recorded. And if you read that report, it is very clear that our team said they disagreed with Kenya Kwanza. Because Kenya Kwanza team said that it is the responsibility of the government of the day to reduce the cost of living. It is not the work of the opposition. Opposition can point out, but they say they will do it in their own style, at their own pace. Okay? So we said, fine, as we will continue to press them to reduce the cost of living. But, our position was, should we therefore walk out, our delegation walk out of the talks because of these disagreements? We thought that because we had achieved substantially on those other ones. So we say we go with those as we press for the issue of cost of living. So we'll continue to press the issue of cost of living, the government, to reduce taxation particularly. And therefore, those are the members of Azimio who are talking. They're just addressing what we all agree on, that issue of cost of living. Yeah? But see, what they may not know is that there was agreement on very fundamental issues that we addressed as Azimio.
Your plans for 2027?
Our position, 2027 is still 4 years away. And I've told Kenyans that you cannot be campaigning for five years. That once elections are done, we forget about them. As we have been still concerned with what happened in 2022. because unless we resolve it properly, it will be useless to anybody to try to run in 2027. Unless we really sort out properly that mess that we had, that we have a proper electoral commission that we can preside over the elections and give you real results. Because as you know, the results of last presidential elections have not been published according to the law up to now. So how do you now begin to look at what 2027? Huh? To me, that is an academic exercise. We need to sort out what happened last year, okay? And when the time comes for the next elections, people who are interested will come up and will declare their candidature. And we will find a way of selecting whoever is going to be the candidate. Mimi sikusema nitaunga mkono Kalonzo Musyoka ukalingine. Yale nilifanya, nilimsifu Bwana Kalonzo Musyoka kama mtu mwaminifu, mtu ambaye anaweza kuaminika, ambaye ameweza kusimama na sisi kwa hali na mali wakati tumekuwa na ugumu. Nilikuwa najibu Bwana Ruto, lakini nikasema Bwana Kalonzo anaweza. Na hiyo ndio ni sawa sawa. Ndani katika Azimio hatuna mavutano hapa na pale. Sisi tunajua uchaguzi bado, wakati ikifika tutakubaliana nani ambaye atabeba bendera yetu. Kama ni Kalonzo sawa, kama ni mtu mwingine sawa. Kwa hivyo sitaki kusema ni nani.
What is your message to Kenyans on this as the year comes to an end and the expectations of the new year 2024?
Unfortunately, this Christmas is different from other Christmases. That is being held against the background of a very severe economic situation in our country. I was talking to people yesterday, and they got a number of them are saying that they're not going to have any celebrations. It is a Christmas without joy and celebrations. And only one hopes that times are going to change in the future. So, but I want to wish them a Merry Christmas and happy and prosperous New Year 2024.